So with this global RAM shortage, of course, brought upon us by AI, should you right now, if you need a gaming PC or you want to put one together, should you actually be looking at a pre-built gaming PC right now because that RAM was purchased probably months and months ago by these companies for much lower prices? Or can you still put together a pretty good gaming PC yourself that beats these deals? Welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. We're going to go through the challenge here. Pre-built versus actual build with current RAM prices. Let's see which one comes out on top, because I am seeing some pretty incredible pre-built gaming PC deals. Something like this, the Skytech King 95. So this is the Montech King 95 PC case, a Ryzen 7800 X3D with an RTX 5060 Ti 16GB. Now, normally I would criticize the CPU GPU combo here, but I can't find any other RTX 5060 Ti PC or even a 5070 PC out there for anywhere approaching this price. And you get a 7800 X3D essentially thrown in there on top of it. We have a 1TB NVMe and then 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM. Now, check to the RAM speed here. It's actually 32 gigs of DDR5 5200 speed. Of course, with the Ryzen 7800 X3D, maybe that doesn't really matter as much because the X3D CPUs don't care as much. Maybe a bigger impact if you got like a 7700X or a 7600X in the gaming PC instead. And then you get a 1TB NVMe with it and a 360mm all-in-one liquid cooler in a pretty amazing package for $12.99. But let's see if we can beat that with an actual build. So here we are on PC Part Picker. Let's see what we can do. Let's first of all grab a 7800 X3D. So we'll do two builds. We'll do one that's kind of the same specs as what that one has, or very close to it. And then we'll see what we can do for $1,300. For the CPU cooler, they went 360mm all-in-one liquid cooler. I don't expect that the liquid coolers they're using are like super high quality. They're probably fine. So we're not going to buy anything extravagant here. We're just going to get the cheapest acceptable 360 right now. Cooler Master Liquid, great cooler. There we go. For the motherboard, you can't always pick the motherboards. I noticed in some Skytech, because that's the brand we're looking at, sometimes they will tell you it's an X870 motherboard, but those tend to be the higher end pre-builts with like an RTX 5080. There's a lot more money out there. So I've noticed with some of the lower spec ones that just generally you get kind of a B650, B850, often a micro ATX motherboard. So let's just go micro ATX here. And let's just pick, the ASRock B650M Pro RS, absolutely fine. Let's see what else we got here. For the memory, this is obviously going to be our big sticking point, right? Let's see what we can get right now for DDR5. And I'm not sure that we're actually going to be able to find exactly what we're looking for in PC Part Picker. I've noticed looking outside of PC Part Picker, manually searching Amazon and Best Buy and Newegg are typically the best ways right now. I'm seeing $313. This is a Clev Fit kit. And this is part of the problem right now with the shortage is a lot of times you don't know if this stuff actually exists. You go here, doesn't really look like this exists. Let's go back. I did pull out this kit earlier, $313. Looks like that's about the same. But if we want an RGB kit, if we do want to go like for like, that's going to cost us a little bit of money here. Looks like this G-Skill Trident kit, DDR5 6000 CL36. In fact, it's better RAM than they're looking at there. Storage, unfortunately, NVMe SSDs have gone up pretty massively in price, about doubled since this time in September when you could get a 1TB NVMe SSD for about $50, sometimes even a little bit less. Now we're at the $100 mark for storage. Now that's not the highest of all time, obviously. And again, some of these drives, like I know that Cardeas 0Z330 is not there for $99. Kingston NV2 is probably the best we can anticipate. Let's make sure it actually exists at Amazon. Says CO buying options as long as it's no. See, this is part of the problem right now with trying to buy some of these PC parts is that some of them are just out. Now, the Patriot P400 Lite, I do know is there. Let's go ahead and grab that one. It's a DRAM-less NVMe SSD. It's perfectly fine for $99. The video card here, well, let's be a stickler and let's go with for the 5060 Ti 16GB. Unfortunately, it is tough to find these that are relatively cheap now. And we've heard that in the new year, NVIDIA is going to start raising prices. Looks like we got a couple different ones for $429, either the PNY 2 fan or the Zotac 2 fan. It essentially doesn't matter. We're just going to grab one of those. The case is going to be, we're already at $1,393, by the way, without a case and a power supply. How much wattage do they have in their power supply? Do they even say? I don't think they said in the, they don't. Let's assume that we're going to need 750 watts maybe for that. The other thing that with a pre-built, you're never quite sure all the parts that they're going to use. So for instance, are they going to use at least a C-tier rated PSU? These are always questions. Obviously, when you build your own, one of the advantages of you get to pick all the parts yourself. And on top of that, you can make sure that they're relatively good parts. So I would say for this build, what it is calling for about 450. So I think 650 watts would probably be fine for this. So let's just go 650 or higher and see what we get. I would guess they're probably going to use a C tier. Great, Mag A650BE. That's a good C tier rated by MSI. And then here's going to be for the case right now. This is going to be the big challenge. If we use the Montech King 95, unfortunately, I think those are sold out. That's the one that they're using. Skytech and Montech, I think, are related companies. So yeah, unfortunately, the Montech King 95 is kind of out of stock everywhere. What if we just go with the Antec? What's another similar case? The Antec C5 ARGB for $109 right now. That's a pretty good deal, actually. So all told, if we put this whole build together here with similar specs to probably what we're seeing there, it would cost us $1,563.91. Now, how much of that can we actually blame on the RAM price? If that RAM kit was $90, right, or let's say it was $100, that would be a savings of $240 basically. All the other parts I'm seeing pretty decent deals on right now. If we take away $240 from this, $1,320. So I got to tell you, that deal is probably like one of the best deals I've ever seen, because we do look at the pre-built market quite often. In fact, here's our pre-built video. I update this list pretty much every day. So this is basically the best pre-built gaming PCs I can find right now. That does beg the question though, what could we build for about $1,300 right now? How does that stack up against a similar value? Well, the first thing I would downsize on this is the CPU. Honestly, I mean, I would look at the 7600 or the 9600. Right now, it's $181. 9600X is 100. Let's just go with the 7600X. I'm not even sure we're going to see that big of a difference. Obviously, the XDD CPUs, you're going to see some difference. And then for the CPU cooler, it's $50 down to, I would just take, honestly, one of the cheapest budget tower air coolers right now. Looks like it's the id Cooling SC214T. Great cooler. We use this all the time. And then we're going to get rid of the liquid cooler. For the RAM, I would step the RAM all the way back to one of the cheapest kits I could get out there. The RAM speed is now going to matter more because we have a Ryzen 7600 instead of a 7800 X3D, which has so much cache on it, it essentially doesn't really care about the RAM speed. But I'd look to just come, this Crucial kit here, 6400 CL38, $292. I know, LOL Crucial, right? Of course it has to be a Crucial kit, but I did check at Best Buy and this kit is actually there. So let's go ahead and use that one. So let's get rid of the RGB. That RGB isn't worth $40 on the RAM. I don't think we can really do better from a storage standpoint. For the GPU, I would probably look to come down to a 9060 XT 16 gigabyte. Just because similar performance. Gigabyte Gaming OC was a pretty good one for $379. So we're going to save another $50 doing that. We're now at 1600. That's because I still have two graphics cards in. Let's get rid of the other graphics card. We're now at $1,242. So actually come down and we have now an extra $50 to spend. The other thing I would do is the case. Do we really need like an Antec C5? Could we not just go, we could either go micro ATX case. What about the View 170? Let's go with the Thermaltake View 170 here. Great micro ATX PC case. We're now at $1,200. We can actually put $100 back into the build if we wanted to. And you notice also the wattage has come down, so you're going to use a little bit less power with this as well. Now, $1,197. At this point, I might say, you know what? Well, while we're at it, why don't we spend like, what did 7,700 run? 7,700 is $245. It's like another $70. Is that really worth it? I would probably prefer just to go with the 9600X. There it is for $193. I spent $20 extra on our CPU. It has a small effect, and we might as well get on it. For $1,208, we can build this, and it's $100 cheaper than the PC that we were just looking at. And the other thing is, we get to pick all the parts. Okay, now here's one that is another really, really insane deal. And again, I'm not quite sure how they afford to put these together, even under the old RAM pricing. And if you're wondering why another Skytech gaming PC, it just happens that I think Skytech is the last to hold the old pricing. I've noticed that CyberPower PC, iBuyPower, and others, ABS, have all started to raise their prices, probably because they're running out of the cheaper RAM that they have, and they're having to charge more for these. Maybe Skytech just has a bigger kind of pool of RAM that they are pre-purchased. Eventually, these prices obviously will go up. They will go up. But let's jump into this one. This is Skytech 11. This is a Ryzen 7700, 32 gigs of DDR5, and an RX 9070 XT along with a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. for $15.29. One over at Amazon for similar pricing. But after that, they're like $1,800 or something like that. I did dive into the specs, by the way. Best Buy, I don't know what you're doing here, but this does not have 96 megabytes of L3 cache. It is not a 7800 X3D. Maybe at some point this listing was for a 7800 X3D. It's now for a 7700 though, so they didn't update that. I don't know. And then for the RAM, they're promising 6,000 speed DDR5. Not really any cache latency on that. But essentially, if it's RGB RAM, I would assume, fingers crossed, that it isn't totally terrible stuff. And then of course it comes in the Lian Li O11 Vision, which is just a real big statement piece kind of PC case. And again, that's a very expensive PC case. So it's a little puzzling why you get a build like this at this price point in it. That's pretty crazy. And a 360 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler. Now, in the picture, they're showing you a Deep Cool one. Deep Cool is no longer allowed to do business in the US. We won't get into that, but we'll just pick out another 360 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler. Okay, so let's see what we can do. And I'm gonna pull out a secret weapon here, at least if you're in the US. We can also do one if you're not in the US, but Newegg has DDR5 combo deals out there right now that are really, really insane. Let's just check these out real quick. Now they constantly change, so I will link this page with all of these down in the video description. You can just see what the best ones are, and I have it sorted by lowest price out there. But right now you can get something like this, 240 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler. It's a Cooler Master cooler. You get the X870E Nova Wi-Fi. It is an ASRock board, but we're not going to go with an X3D CPU, so I'm not really that worried about it. 7800 X3D seems fine on it. And then you get this DDR5 6400 CL32 RGB RAM kit for $379. So altogether, though, it's $489. Remember, those RAM kits we were looking at were $300 plus, or $340 by themselves. So for another $140, you're getting an X870E motherboard and you're getting a liquid cooler. So let's bring this in to our overall build. Now we could just go ahead and use Newegg's PC Builder with it, but I want to be able to pull PC parts from everywhere. So let's just go ahead and put in the X870E Nova. What is it? $489 total. We'll zero out the price for everything else. For the memory, we've got the colorful, the V color. I don't know if they have a lot of those kits. Let's just put in any 6400 CL32 kit in here that's got RGB. Sure, let's just add this kit in. We know it's not Corsair Vengeance, but it doesn't seem to be in PC Part Picker. And then we're getting a 240 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler. So basically, this is what we're getting for $489, rough equivalent, right? So what would I do in order to hit that $1,529 price point? Let's grab a GPU. Let's go to the 9070 XT, because we've already solved our RAM problem, right? This is great. So let's get a 9070. Now, unfortunately, the MSR 9070 XTs have sold out, and as they've come back into stock, what we're gonna find is that, like the ASRock Challenger here, this is typically an MSRP card. Now it's $629. We're already seeing those price increases come in, but some of the brands have not fully raised their prices yet. So this is one of the things, if you're thinking about buying one of these cards, you should have already done it. But if you haven't done it, like run, don't walk to the links down in the video description. I'm gonna go with the Power Color Hellhound OC. You can still get for $629. The cheapest one right now is the ASRock Steel Legend, which is actually a really good model, but the Power Color Hellhound I know is a really kind of a fan favorite, so let's grab that one. And then for the storage, I don't really think we're gonna do any better than the Patriot P400 Lite, which is what we got last time. So let's just assume that's the best we're gonna do. And then for the case, I think we're also gonna probably need to pull in the Antec, because the O11 Vision is one of these cases that's just completely sold out. So let's just go with the Antec C5 again. Because again, $109, man, that's feels like just great deal right now. For the power supply, we'll have to decide in a second, but let's grab a CPU. Now we're already at $1,328.97. What do we have left? We have the CPU and we've got basically the power supply. So I think we're doing pretty good. Let's grab a CPU here. They're using the 7700X. Let's use the same CPU. That puts us at $1,574. I probably wouldn't use that particular CPU. I don't think it's a good value. It's really never been a good value, but that's what they're using. So let's go like for like right now. And then I believe they were using an 850 watt PSU, right? So if we had 850, and it's probably gonna be, I can get an A tier rated one, I think for $82 if we use the Montec one. We're just looking down here. This is 79. I mean, if that's 79, why not just spend $3 more, right? This is also a good one, the MPG GS. Montec Century 2 is just one I continuously recommend because for $82, it's A tier rated. I know that one off the top of my head. So here we are. We finished at $1,657.82. But I want to emphasize here a couple of things. Number one, we are using a super high-end X870E motherboard. We're also getting what we know is a pretty decent kit of RAM, and we're getting a 240 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler. Now they're using a 360. I would say 1657 versus this. I actually like this build a little bit better just because we are getting this super high-end motherboard with it. So you can tell me in the comments what you think is better. Now, if I have to hit that $1,529 price point, what would I do? The number one thing I would do is I would drop the CPU down. Again, we don't get a lot of value out of the 7700X over the 9600X in terms of gaming. Basically same gaming performance, slightly better than the 7600X. So for $193, I'd probably go this route instead. Let's see if we can stick it out with the all-in-one liquid cooler. Now we're down to $1,604. The other thing here is the case is great. And it is nice that we've got a super high-end motherboard with it. I would probably go ahead and drop the case down to something maybe a little bit more, I don't, for lack of a better term, manageable right now. Geez, you can get the Fantex Eclipse right now for 50 bucks. Now it will need an additional fan on it. Let's go with a slightly better case though. I love the Montech XR. And it's $69 right now. We could also go with the XR Wood if you want a front intake case instead. But that was a roughly kind of an Atrium style case. So let's go with the Montech XR instead. We're now down to $1,564. What else would I drop down here in order to hit that price point? I think we're pretty kind of cutting it to the bone because we really can't drop the motherboard. It's part of the combo deal. We can't drop the cooler. It's part of the combo. Can't change the RAM, it's part of the combo out there. So I would probably go ahead and maybe drop the power supply. I don't know as we need 850 watts. It's basically for this, we need 750 by my calculations. If we just multiplied that by 1.5, because the wattage is basically 500 is what's recommended. So if we went and looked at 750 watt ones, and Lisa the cat is over here to help us out as well. Let's see what we get here if we just go with a 750 watt PSU instead. Now this one is a C tier rated one. How much money are we really saving here? 70, we're saving $12. I probably just go ahead and keep what we've got because frankly for $12, I feel much better about that. So for $1,564 using the combo, $1,564, we're pretty close. We're about, what, $30 away from that. And honestly, I think we've got a substantially better system than that Prebuilt. Now, the Prebuilt obviously comes pre-assembled. It comes with a warranty. If anything goes wrong, you ship the system back to them. They take care of it, whereas you got to service this one yourself. And it comes with a Windows license. Obviously, we don't have a Windows license. So little things, it comes with a mouse and a keyboard, little things to think about like that. But frankly, just for the X870E super high-end motherboard, I kind of like this one better, but let me know what you think. But what does it look like if we don't use any combo deals whatsoever from Newegg? Maybe you're outside the US. Honestly, we did a little bit better on the price, $1,518.75. And what did we really change here? Well, let's quickly go through it. I used the 9600X instead of the 7700X, obviously. I went with a 240 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler, Thermaltake Aqua Elite V3, which is one that we've used and I like a lot. We went with a cheap B650 motherboard. I didn't go ASRock. I know some people are like, oh, ASRock, Gigabyte B650 M Gaming Plus here. Again, $109, pretty cheap. We went with that same crucial 32 gigabyte kit, 6400 CL38, perfectly adequate. Same speed, by the way, as 6000 CL36, essentially in the latency. And then very similar to the rest of the build with a 9070 XT Hellhound. And then we went with that same Thermaltake View Micro ATX PC case and the fully A-tier rated Montech Century 2 850 watt unit, and we finished out at $1,518. $1,518, actually $10 cheaper than the Prebuilt. And I like this build quite a bit. Now, this is also an area where if you want to spend a little bit more on your motherboard, for instance, you could spend another 20 or 30 bucks on your motherboard, get a slightly better motherboard. You could probably also invest the 40 bucks and get that G-Skill kit of RAM with RGB on it if you wanted to. You have flexibility to pick the parts that you want. But let me know, what do you think? Do you like the build, the Prebuilt that they did, or do you like this build better? All right, but here's where maybe Prebuilts just don't hold their value once we get to the higher end versus builds. Even with inflated RAM prices, let's just check this out. Now, this is a pretty good system, $2,700. This is an RTX 5080. Now, RTX 5080s have gone up in price. The cheaper ones have largely sold out on the DIY PC market. So maybe they do have a little bit of advantage in that you're getting a relatively nice one. This is the Zotac Gaming. I believe it's the Zotac Gaming OC. We'll check out in just a second. 360 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler with a digital readout on top. That's going to be tough to compare. The RAM is by a company that I have never heard of before, at least the RAM that they're showing there. Remember, the pictures are often just kind of illustrative, not necessarily what you're going to get. at, can we tell what motherboard that they're using here? It's really tough to tell. 32 gigs of RGB RAM, 1000 watt PSU, and a Ryzen 9700X with it in a GameDias digital case. It's very similar to the Montech XR. Let's see if they say what the RAM is. The RAM is 6000 speed RAM, but they don't give it cache latency. 2 terabyte NVMe. That's going to be a little tough because, yes, NVMe prices have gone up. Again, for $2,700, and it comes before Christmas, and it looks pretty nice right now. And this is really competitive for RTX 5080 gaming PCs. So let's try and put that build together. To save some time, I've already filled in some things I think that we've already looked at here. Let's quickly go through them. So the 9700X, $293, has never been a good value part. They sold it for $229 during Prime Day. I think it was in July. Other than that, I would typically avoid it. If you're going to spend this much on it, just go all the way to the 7800X 3D in my opinion. But good deal on a 2 terabyte here. This is the 990 Evo Plus. It's a DRAM-less drive, but for $176, Best Buy's got this on. I'll link this down in the video description. This is just a good deal right now. Unfortunately, storage prices have gone up quite a bit. GameDias, by the way, I found the case that they're using for that with the digital readout here. Not only is it $84, it has a 30% coupon on it. So 30% off, that would be, it basically comes up to like $60 for this case. That is insane. Now this has 3 ARGB and PWM fans. I don't know what the quality of fans are. I'm going to buy one of these, by the way, just after the video, I've shot the video. We'll do a build in one of these. Looks pretty exciting. And then of course we went with the Montech Century 2 1000 watt unit. It's only a little bit more than the 850 watt unit. That's super, super good out there. For the CPU cooler, let's find a digital CPU cooler that's also a 360. Montech and id Cooling both have really cool looking digital ones for not that much money. Here it is right here for $99. That's a little bit more than I'd like to spend, but maybe that's what, just go ahead and go with this one right now. For the motherboard is really tough. We don't really know what motherboard that they're using there. Let's just go ahead and pick maybe a mid-range board. The Asus TUF B650 Plus was on sale. $149 for a more premium board. It's a B650, it's not B650E. How much is the B650E Plus right now? It's $40 more. I don't really think the Gen 5 GPU slot's really worth it. So let's go with this motherboard instead. Nice premium motherboard out there. And then for the GPU, that's really going to be the deal breaker. So we're at $1,244 all told. We haven't even used any of those combo deals, by the way. This is just off-the-shelf parts. We'll have to check with the combo deals in a second. Now, the problem here is the RTX 5080s are like really thin on stock. Oh, the Asus Prime is in stock right now. Is it actually there? Best Buy claims that they have it. Let's see if they actually have it. Otherwise, we'd have to go $1,129. Unfortunately, this is kind of where a lot of GPUs are going right now. Let's see the Asus TUF. It says it's there. Get it by Christmas or Christmas Eve. So let's go ahead and add that one in, kind of count ourselves lucky on that. So if that one's only $1,000, we're at $2,244. We've done a really, really good job here. This is not that bad. Even if we said that the RAM should be $200 cheaper, that would only bring us down to about a little over $2,000 for this build. So the price of this build has only come up about 10%. And most of that obviously is just due to the RAM prices, but 10% is not the huge swing we're seeing. I think sometimes with these RAM prices, we're like, oh, the sky is falling. The sky definitely feels like it's falling at the lower end, at more the budget and maybe the lower mid-range. But once you get up to about a $2,000 build, it's not that much of a tax to pay on an overall build like this, especially when you're getting great deals on other components. Okay, so what happens if we swap in this combo and we use it in the build that we were just taking a look at here? I've already gone through and swapped in the combo basically. I just zeroed out the parts because some of them are not in PC Part Picker. And I had so much money left over, I actually upped the CPU to 7800X 3D from the 9700X. Again, I don't understand why the 9700X is always so expensive. Look at this, $2,224, basically the same price as the build we were just looking at. And honestly, substantially better with the 7800X 3D in there. 240 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler. This is actually at a price point too, where you could probably just sell it, give it away to somebody. If you don't like that cooler and you want a 360, I wouldn't really think too much of it. And you get a super high-end motherboard with an X870E in there. So it just seems like a ton of value compared to the $2,700, $2,800 you're going to spend for an RTX 5080 pre-built. The cheapest ones I can find out there are even like $2,300 with way less specs than this. So I think this is a pretty good deal for system builders. I know sometimes we think sky's falling because of RAM prices, but especially in this price point, it hasn't really affected us that much. You're not getting as much value as you did, 6 months ago. That being said, like motherboard prices have fallen through the floor. All the other PC part prices have also fallen through the floor. So I think on balance, it kind of feels like things are starting to level out a bit. And I will just cross my fingers when I say that, because we really hope that those RAM prices stabilize, start to come down a little bit. But let me know what you think. If you got value out of this video, please give it likes, makes a huge difference to the channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.